Welcome to SFL Game Day Wrap-Up along with Mike St. Green. I'm Cameron Irvine, and just wrapping up Week 4 here on a Sunday afternoon. I'd like to hype it up and say, oh, yeah, it's just as good as Saturday, but I can't lie. It wasn't. We had some snoozers out there, Mike, and but we got through it. Everybody counts. Wins are wins, losses are losses, and 12 more games in the books.
Yeah, Cam, I was just thinking, man, there's no way near that this day topped yesterday. But yeah, as you mentioned, the games are the games. They're exciting and entertaining in their own right and in their own way. And just so happens today, we didn't get some of the matchups and expectations that we expected to get. Especially out a couple of matchups, DC and Mexico City and Queen City and Atlanta in particular. But great performances by Queen City and Mexico City, and those guys are sitting at 4-0. So yeah, no big drama-filled ball games, but great ball games nonetheless.
Yeah, and we start with the Mexico City Aztecs taking down the DC Dragons. This game was ugly. This game featured the second straight victory for Mexico City, where they've had over 30 minutes of time of possession. They were wire to wire at the half. Matt Wilson had 26 completions, and Shabazz Synergy had 27 passing yards. It was brutal, and I don't really think it's because DC is bad. DC is a pretty good team. I think it just showed just how good Mexico City is. They are 4-0, and they unquestionably, at this point, are one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, Cam, as you said, it was ugly. I really thought it was a beautiful performance, especially from the Mexico City side.
It was ugly for DC.
Yeah, it was definitely ugly
for casual fans.
Yeah, for their part. It was just kind of a funny game. It's like Mexico City was so methodical. That first drive and 1-yard touchdown catch from Ray Bentley. It was just, they just had a way of getting everyone involved. And I personally just kept expecting for, DC to mount a nice offensive drive or do something to get back in this game, and it just never seemed to happen. The one instance where it seemed like they could have kind of turned the momentum was an interception in the end zone, the controversial safety play call that the refs decided to make on that play. DC thought maybe they had gotten out of that game without giving up points, and then they not only give up points, but then they immediately have to get a ball back to Mexico City, and they turned that into 3 points and to go into the half with an even bigger lead. So, but still, I think that would have been an anomaly in the game. They never got anything going in the second half. They never got Kevin Say going in this game. So, ugly game from that standpoint. But yeah, Mexico City were a machine today, and they definitely have established themselves at this point in the season as one of the better teams in the league.
Yeah, they're fortunate that horrible safety call didn't come in a 3-point game, 5-point game kind of thing where it actually would have made a difference. Because you're right, Kevin Say didn't have anything going for him. There really weren't any receivers open today. There were receivers making catches, but they were difficult catches. They just weren't wide open at all. Mexico City really good. They are 4-0. And they are now in sole possession of the South Division now that Houston fell to Los Angeles last night, 27-20. From one dominant team to the next, we go to the north, where the Queen City Corsairs took down the Atlanta Swarm 27-14. Again, wire to wire, they were the victors. Cody Griffin had 3 interceptions, rookie with the 25th selection in the draft, playing really well for Queen City. Bryant Dynasty threw pick after pick after pick. Ted Haynes had a couple as well. And Atlanta just could never get moving, could never get going. It was almost kind of like they were in quicksand a little bit today, not being able to get Hollywood going on the ground, but then having to turn around and throw deep all day against a secondary that wasn't giving up anything. And now Queen City is 4-0.
Yeah, actually, Cam, very similar games from the standpoint of how the offenses of Atlanta and DC couldn't get anything going. Bryant Dynasty had one of the worst games he's had all season long, probably even in his career, with the 5 interceptions, and that's probably the only difference in the games of that synergy and DC didn't really turn it over much, but yeah, Atlanta, they kept shooting themselves in the foot with the turnover ball in this game. A huge game from the rookie, as you mentioned, and Cody Griffin with the 3 interceptions, one of them to stop a drive in the end zone, and the main thing was Queen City turned most of those turnovers that they had into points on the other end, and so they just basically kept Atlanta behind the 8 ball pretty much this entire contest.
And they keep pace with Baltimore. I mean, and they keep London off their back too. They already have the one game up on the division on the head-to-head tiebreaker. But yeah, Queen City. I mean, right there with Baltimore, and they don't play each other until towards the end of the season, and it's just the one meeting. So that's going to be the game of the week whenever we get there. As long as both of these teams, neither of these teams, experience a free fall. For Atlanta, same type of thing with DC. Do you feel like, Mike? Right? I mean, it wasn't that Atlanta looked bad. It just Queen City just looked really dominant.
Yeah, and we talked to Chris Comsack earlier in the week and talked about was he surprised in how this team has started the season. Of course, he said no, he's not surprised, but yeah, it's many around the league that we are a little surprised. I mean, but what I'm really surprised at, Cam, more than anything, is just the way they dominated teams. I mean, Atlanta has played well in all their games up until this one. London, as you mentioned, that's London's only losses to Queen City. That's the only game that they did not perform well in. So, evidently they're doing something right over there. This coaching staff, studying teams, putting in the right game plans, and getting the most out of the team right now. And hey, look, before you know it, they're 4-0, atop of the division, and definitely in conversation for one of the better teams in the league right now. And
also, similar to the DC game, you had Atlanta's high-flying offense that put up 27 on Jacksonville. They put up 39 against London. They had the big game against Denver, and their offense just couldn't do anything. Very similar to DC, where they had been scoring a bunch of points, and they just couldn't get it done there either. So, yeah, Queen City and Mexico City, super impressive. And they roll on Sunday of Week 4. Another team worth mentioning today, the Fort Worth Toros, who are not your average 0-3 team, had lost 3 games, all by 1 possession coming into the week. They got a little bit of help when E.J. Minson went down for Florida, and Bullet Beletsky had just a horrible day. But credit to Fort Worth, making it difficult for him. And the Toros get off the mat. Another 0-3 team to get a win this week. 3 of them did that, leaving Jacksonville and San Diego as the only winless teams in these standings. But Fort Worth holds on to get the win 20-14 over Florida. A big victory for the Toros, now 1-3.
Yeah, this was a huge victory for Fort Worth to get out of the undefeated column. the winless column, and they put forth a great effort today, and they got a performance that they needed all around from the defense, as well as Cam Curtis came alive a little bit today in the passing game. And Cam, it's easy to forget that Fort Worth, in shutting down Bullet Beletsky, as you mentioned, last season, this team was one of the better scoring defenses in the league. They didn't give up a lot of points. They were leading the league in defensive scoring for a majority of the season last season, and today that defense pretty much showed up. Yeah, the injury to E.J. Minson early in that game definitely helped, but it was just a great effort all around from this defense. So solid defensive backs, the linebacking core is great over there, and they just made some plays at the right time and held Florida pretty much in check.
Yeah, Florida's Bullet Beletsky, he had 32 total touches for 57 total yards today. That's pretty impressive from Fort Worth's defense, considering what Beletsky did against Denver just last week, ran all over him, and Denver has looked much better as the season has rolled on. All right, Mike, game balls from Sunday.
Well, my first game ball is going to come from one of the earlier games that we highlighted, and that's going to go to the rookie defensive back, Cody Griffin, with the 3 interceptions, the 1 in the end zone, as I mentioned. And, he almost had a pick 6 on his 3rd one. They returned for a long way, and they pretty much caught him, inside the red zone, I believe, before he could cross the end zone. But, yeah, Cody Griffin gets my first game ball. He pretty much spearheaded that defense in the win today over Atlanta.
Yeah, that's a good one. He was really impressive, and a good win for them. I'm going to go. He's been kind of flying under the radar a little bit, but I'm going to go Ezekiel Love for Portland. He is the SFL's top running back right now, and Love survived the duel with Colin Hart with Sioux Falls. Portland has won 2 in a row, and they looked pretty good. They're a little shaky early against Sioux Falls, but they climbed out of it. They had a solid performance. They keep pace in the Pacific Division. It's not just Love. Portland's getting everything moving, but they ended up kind of dominating that game against Sioux Falls, and Ezekiel Love was a big part of that. And just every week, that dude is just dumping 150 out there. And because he's doing it every week, it's starting to become normal, and we're not considering it or recognizing it as special. So Ezekiel Love for Portland gets my game ball.
Yeah, Cameron, and he's definitely special. Phoenix Jones is my early MVP candidate for his entire league, so that would probably make Ezekiel Love my offensive player of the year candidate early on. But as you mentioned, this guy's been flying under the radar for the past really about 10 weeks, because if you go back to about week 6 of season 16, this is what we've been seeing out of Ezekiel Love week in and week out, as he really came on strong at the end of last season. So we expected some carryover coming into this season. He's definitely, proven us right in thinking, that he was going to perform well, and he's lived up to the expectations so far.
All right, your second game ball, Mike.
Wow, Cam, the second game ball was difficult, but I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball, and you gave out I think 3 game balls. You split up a game ball between 3 kickers yesterday.
I did, yes.
I don't know how one could do that, but since you gave it to 3 kickers, I'm going to split it between 2 defensive linemen, and probably the entire defensive line for this team deserves one. I'm going to go with Leonard Butler Sr., as well as another rookie, Chance Wall. They had 6 sacks between them, 3 apiece. The team as a whole had 9 sacks against Lone Star today. That defense dominated that game. They, put these guys on a good track, and they definitely led Louisiana to that victory today. So I'm going to give my second game ball to those guys.
Yeah, the Lone Star play action attack combined with Louisiana's front was a recipe for disaster, and Louisiana stepped up and played great. There for a minute, Mike, I was kind of sitting there and I was saying, here goes Louisiana again, not playing a complete game. Like, they're letting Lone Star back into this thing, but they shut the door. It looked like they kind of learned from their mistakes from earlier in the season, and they kept the intensity up. And that D line, I mean, it totally took Lone Star out of everything they like to do. You can't run to the fullback when it's 2nd and 15. You just can't. And we just didn't see much of that today. And Ike McBride was pretty quiet, and that was all due in part to that Louisiana defensive front. So nice game ball there. Not often we get to shout out some defensive linemen on the program. So good to do that. All right, Mike, how often would you say that I shock you?
Usually once a week during this segment.
Once a week during this segment. What would be the most shocking thing that I could do?
Probably give me a game ball, but I don't know if you're going to go there, right?
Oh, I think I am. I'm giving Mike St. Green a game ball. St. Green's never had a game ball. He had 10 catches against his former team, and I was giving him crap off air about how there's not a stone's chance in hell that you're going to get a game ball from me. But you know what? I'm feeling generous. I think you deserve a game ball. Not only are you tops through 4 weeks or towards the top, we'll have to see how the final leaderboards all shake out, but towards the top in receptions. But you also had a very difficult decision to make in free agency, and it looks like you made the right one. London is now 3-1. That passing attack is terrific. Shout out to Johnny Pickler today, who only had 2 incompletions, 30 for 32 passing. Extremely efficient against a very qualified coach in Frank Gooden, and to do that against him was exceptional. And you had 10 receptions, which led the team today. So, yes, Mike, I can be full of cheer, and you get my second game ball for the week. Don't say I never gave you nothing.
Well, Kev, I gladly accept it, but man, I do want to share this game ball with my teammate Vin Callia. He had 3 touchdown catches today, and of course, as you mentioned, a great performance from Johnny. Two missed passes there, and we did this without with Saren Storm going down early in that game. So yeah, I want to share that game ball with Vin and the rest of my teammates, man. But yeah, I appreciate it.
And one note about Jacksonville too, at 0-4. They're only 2 games back of a division that has no teams above 500 because Charleston, Carolina, and Florida are all 2-2 now. And it almost seems like everybody's kind of waffling a bit. I'm waiting for Carolina to step into this spotlight, but it's totally anybody's for the taking right now. And if you're Jacksonville, Mike, you got to feel, you're a rebuilding team. You got to be feeling pretty good about this. You're only 2 games back of the division lead, and you got 8 to go. It's a long season.
Well, here's the warning I would give the rest of the Atlantic Division. I would just admonish you: do not cry over spilt milk. If you allow a team like Jacksonville to stay in this race, Frank and this team, Frank's going to figure it out. This team is going to progress. And he's going to figure it out. I mean, that was a tough game today with London and Jacksonville, and save a couple of late interceptions, a couple of big sacks. Jacksonville had a lot of momentum in that game, and they were looking like they were heading for a victory. So, if these teams, Florida, last weekend, Carolina, they had some fortune in overtime, fumbling the ball. They could have been 3-1 right now. So if you're looking at yourself week 12 and wondering why Jacksonville's at the top of the division, that's going to mean you didn't take advantage of right now when they were struggling a little bit, because I would be surprised if they didn't come back and turn things around.
It's going to be interesting. We got some divisions where nobody's under 500. We have some divisions where everybody's under 500 and or at 500 anyway. It's going to be crazy down the stretch, but we got a long way to go. That's the end of week 4. We'll see you back in week 5 on Next Level Sports, Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Mike will be back with me, and we'll do it all again. Until then, we'll see you later.